What's going on YouTube? This is a Mulatto Vanguard here. So for this video, it's going to be basically an open conversation with a new friend, a new subscriber, my guest Victoria here. So we're going to be talking a little bit about both of our experiences growing up with our both respected identities. And it's going to be a very great dialogue. And I hope you guys get a lot from this conversation, and there's going to be more to come from this. So enjoy.
Yeah, so my work is about East Africa. So I don't know if you know a little Swahili coast, all this thing. So I write a lot about the plight and the it's sad what I'm going to say, but the fact that a lot of us are colonial creations. So the specificity of the Swahili coast when it comes to mixed race identity and everything is the fact that unfortunately you had two important slave trades there, the Indian Ocean slave trade and the Arab slave trade. And these it increased the exchanges between the populations. But even before that, you already had immigration. And you also had another factor that increases race mixing, it's globalization. And the slave trade, and because of the geographical position of the Swahili coast, you have these three elements that create more and more populations and diversity. But in a very interesting fact, if I can say so, um, the Black Eastern Africans are not as um, tough as the Black Westerners, if I can say so. When you are mixed race, they let you be mixed race. If you descend from Black or white Arabs, they let you be who you have. Just like in the Caribbean, descendants of Indians, Persians who are living in East Africa, and they're culturally they no longer are Indians or Persians from their ancestors' land. You know, they've become East Africans, and I thought it was interesting to share this perspective with other people blocked in the West who are somehow afraid of expressing their identity, because in Africa, mixed race people, they have their place, they have their the freedom to somehow be who they are, and the Black people don't care. It's okay, you know. And my issue is that unfortunately in the West, because of the slave trade and the disdain that they have for us, they called everybody Black out of disdain without respecting our specificities. Even in immigration history, we're all Black, you know, depending on the generations we come from. And I think that what's really important is to focus on the culture, the lineage, you know, and because I believe that skin color cannot replace the lineage and the culture, you know. And I believe that knowing your culture and your lineage, even as being a mixed race person, is a key to healing and to finding a place in rejection, if I can say so, you know. So I write a lot from this point of view, and to show that not everybody lives like in the West, you know, whether you're Black Westerner or white Westerner, it's just the West, you know. You also have other places where you can be who you want to be and who you are, you know?
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like I'm in a position now where I often say that I'm not asking, I'm just doing, as far as, carving out my own space, my own niche, on the internet, but also in the physical world, really. Creating a space for mixed race people, mulatto people. I've come to that understanding, that this is something I have to do. It's kind of a calling, my destiny, basically, pretty much. Yeah, so I have the full acceptance of that. And the thing is, I wanted to mention is what I see in the West a lot is this whole, like, oftentimes Black Americans will say, you need to choose a side, pick a side, because they feel like you can't be mixed race around them, right? In a white society, a white community, you can be the mixed race guy, a mixed race guy. I've traveled all through America, and there are certain towns and areas I've been to in America where it's majority all white, like 95+% white people, but there'll be like one mixed race guy or a mixed race girl. So there's one, like a couple families like that, and they they navigate pretty well. They look healthy. They look like normal people, like they're in their society. But I feel like in the black society, that mixed race person, they have to only identify as being black. They can't like be proud of their white heritage or their European heritage. They have to downplay that and only uphold black. And I feel like that's it's not good. It's not there's no balance there, and it's not a healthy
I agree.
yeah, that's just what I can say on that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's true, and I believe that I'm going to send you my website so you can read a few of my articles. But I believe also there's a lot of projection from the Black Western side. I'd like to precise the Black Western identity.
Yeah.
It's not African identity,
Right, right.
And a lot of Black Westerners, they hate being who they are.
Right, right,
And somehow by forcing a biracial or a mixed MGM person kind of
right.
to claim you're only black, it's
Mhm.
a way for them to block them from that otherness that they also wish they had. I've
Right,
seen it.
right.
Many black Westerners don't like being who just it's not just forcing mixed people to claim black, it's also trying to claim other identities like
Right.
being black because you're a native US Indian or because you're a black Israelite. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And for the sake of history, because I work, I'm a historian and I'm also trying to heal somehow through my work. If we need to rebuild who we are, whether we mix, whether we black or white, we need to study colonialism, the slave trade, and the legacy of it, but also respect the fact that after 400 years, we are no longer the same. And each category needs to be studied and understood depending on their own experience. Biracial people have a history. That's a fact. They have a history, and biracial identity goes back even to ancient times. So we need, I believe, more and more biracial historians to write on biracial history. Then you have the quadroons, the octoroons. I'm African, so I've seen many. For example, in Central Africa, Central Africans they don't mix that much as the people from the Swahili coast or some parts of West Africa. But you had colonizers there, and they left mixed people there, and these mixed people sometimes they married white people, so the lineage is becoming whiter. But these white people were born and grew up in an African society, so they act more African, but they're white. So how can you study that? How can you navigate through that? How can you understand this if you don't recognize that there's a mixed category that exists depending on the different um, racial admixture that they have? So I really write about these issues, and I like to focus on healing. I think it's really important, you know. Um, so that's my take.
Yeah, yeah, that's very accurate, Yeah, I mean, just to kind of go back a little bit on what you said about the whole identity swapping, and a lot of it's the projection, what a lot of people will say, because I'm very specific when I speak on black people, monoracial black people specifically. I talk about American descendants of slave people specifically because that's part of my family, my lineage. That's the community, the group, I should say, that I'm most familiar with, right?
Mhm.
I've worked with, went to school with, etc. So I speak on them primarily because that's the majority in America of American black people. It's those who've descended from the system of chattel slavery, right? And you see a lot of the identity swapping. You see where they claim they're Moors, they claim they're the ancient Egyptians, they claim they're the real Native Americans, okay? They have a lot of identity swapping. And it's a lot of projection because a lot of them they're ashamed of themselves. They're ashamed that they were sold, by their own people to benefit other groups of people into America, and they're ashamed of that. And so they have a lot of projection. So when they see a guy like me, a lot of them, the men I'm talking about now, the men, when they see a guy like me, a lot of them they wish they were me. Okay. And because then and they wish they were me and they can never be me, then there's a lot of frustration there. There's a lot of anger and animosity. So there's a lot of projection that comes with that. And with me, I got tired of dealing with it after a while, right? In my mid to late 20s. So I was like, okay, I gotta, create my own group or something. I gotta defend myself because I can't, it's hostile for me to be around people who hate themselves so much that they want to turn on you because they wish they were you. That the envy and jealousy is it's very dangerous to this point, but it's connected with the whole identity race swapping situation. I know I said a whole mouthful there, but I talk about this a lot on my channel, and a lot of people, biracial mixed race people, they agree with me. That's so I've been able to build up a kind of an audience of following over the past several months. Hasn't even been a year since I've been doing this, and I've been connecting with people from around the world. I mean, even you're in France, or I believe, or Belgium, but I have
I live
people.
in both, but I'm
Yeah,
Belgian culturally. I'm
you
Belgian, yeah.
travel. Yeah, for sure. I plan on going out there this summer, or in next several months to the Western Europe, just for traveling and leisure. But what I was saying is that I have people in the UK and all over America and Brazil and stuff. So I talk to a lot of people. They find my channel and they agree with a lot of the takes that I make. But I'm usually specific because I've been to West Africa, I've been to Ghana, and I love it there.
Mm.
I always promote Ghana because these are people who have a culture, they have an identity, they have a history. Versus when you talk about American Black people who come from slavery, their identity and their culture has been ripped from them. So they have to you know basically they take on the identity of the American structure, the psyche, so to speak, which puts them at the bottom as an underclass, as a slave class. And with all the policies, with the government, with the immigration, when the immigrants come to America, they are, a lot of times they're because of their culture, they have a culture back home that they excel over the native Black person, the former slave, right? And even with West Africans, the university I went to, a lot of the specifically Nigerians, they outperformed everybody else as far as all the other Black groups, but they even outperformed white groups and other demographics as well. Some of the top, academic groups in America are like Asian people, China, Taiwan, Korean, East Indian, but Nigerians they have a lot of ingenuity. They become very successful in America, especially in the academics. So like I'm saying is a lot of them got scholarships, right? And they outperform. And you see that across the board with immigrant groups, not just from Africa who come to America and do good, but you see that from people from the Middle East, people from all over Asia. And so yeah, I said a lot, but
I true, but I from what I see from a distance, your society, your American society is really toxic when it comes to race. And what I appreciate, even I went to your page on Instagram. I'm not biracial, I'm MGM. I'm African, MGM. And I appreciated the fact that you put the emphasis on representation. I've seen the pictures you've posted of biracial women, whether Zoe Kravitz or whatever, and this is a very important impact psychologically because I believe that a lot of us, most of us, whether black, mixed, or whatever, we were impacted psychologically, and there's something to rebuild, and representation really matters, and I wanted to know um, what kind of struggles that you face on a daily basis, by organizing and by promoting your identity and all the things that you're doing. Are you being, for example, attacked by other biracials who want to identify as black or?
No, I'm not being attacked by them. I kind of chuckle and laugh at them, but like I said, in America, I think most biracials, black, white, they want to identify as black. They want black acceptance. I wasn't that quite extreme. I sympathized with black people. I was in what we call the pro-black phase. So like with Dr. Umar Johnson and other people so I'd watch their content on YouTube. I attended a couple events. I sought out black businesses to support. So I was definitely sympathetic towards like the black plight. And that's kind of part of that identity formation or finding a group is, I saw, the social hierarchy in America. And I was like, hey, I want to help out. It's part of my heritage, part of who I am, the Black father, Black family. So I can
Mhm.
identify, but more so now today, especially the past 5 years, they've been pushing people like me out just based off my looks. So there is it used to be where don't judge a man by the color of his skin, judge him by the content of their character.
Mhm.
Okay. But the same people who said that in the 60s, today, their children, they're not promoting that. They're promoting, the color of your skin. They're saying if you're mixed, well, I can't trust you. They push conspiracy theories that in a lot of Black nationalist circles, there's a book called The Destruction of Black Civilization, which was wrote by Chancellor Williams in like the 70s. And he traveled throughout Africa and did some research. But a lot of it is a pseudo historical analysis. So a lot of it's his own viewpoints from the 70s. He's talking about things supposedly that happened centuries prior. So there's a lot of holes in his books and his logic and his theories in the book. But today, modern times, a lot of pro-Black and Black nationalist people, they embrace his book like it's the Bible. They call it the Black Bible, the
Wow.
destruction of Black civilization. And the kind of the thesis of that book is basically to say that mulatto people are an enemy to the Black race, that mixed race
Wow.
people, biracial people, we can't be trusted because we will side with white people against Black people. So because that book has a lot of influence in those circles, the pro-Black circles, they have pushed us out, biracial mixed race people. They're like, well, I don't trust you. I don't need your help. And I'm like, okay, good. Now it forces me to go over and to re-navigate, to strategize and build something for myself, my own community, so to speak. And but to go back to your question about biracials, do I have conflict with them? They identify as Black. They don't attack me. They don't, a lot of biracials, when they're in the Black society, they're in America, I'm speaking, right? They have a subordinate position where they have to constantly prove themselves that they're Black, that they're
Mhm.
not this agent or enemy spy, that they're trustworthy. And the way they do that is they have to go extra hard against white people, their other half. Then they
Okay.
can get this acceptance. And it's a very weird, awkward position that I was never comfortable in, but you'll see that in America, a lot of light skin, whatever, MGM or biracials who are very, very pro-Black, right? More than the darker skinned Black person, because that biracial person is trying to fight for their place in Black society.
Mm.
But just to finish off, I don't really get attacks from them yet. It might occur in the future. But I always suspected it, even with this channel. I knew that a lot of Black people were inevitably going to have to accept the fact that mulattoes, mixed race people, we kind of want our own space. We were forced to because a lot of them, the Black people pushed us out. So we're just going to form our own space regardless if they like it or not. I always knew that it was going to be biracial people, a lot of mixed race people who were against what I'm doing because they want to prove to Black people that they're good or they're better than me. But just to add a cherry on top.
So yeah. So just like you said, a lot of people still want to pander somehow to the Black side, or yeah. So that's the issue too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if pandering is, the right. Yeah, I guess you can say pandering. It's interesting because, like, a lot of the people on the pro-Black side, they will basically tell me, well, you just want to be white, you just want to accept white. It's like, well, that's part of my heritage,
Which you are.
but
You are 50% white.
I'm part Black too. So why is it acceptable for me to just be Black and not like, and the thing is, I'm a standard mulatto. Okay, I know. I'm a person where it's like I just want my own thing. I'm not trying to be white and move into a white society. A lot of the communities are nicer and cleaner and stuff. I think I live in it's diverse. I have a African neighbor, East Indian, white people around me. But what I'm saying is that like, yeah, I'm not trying to really fit in and mold into white society or Black society. I want a space, a group, a community, society
People like you.
for
Yeah.
mixed race people who look like me and who share the similar culture, right, in America. And I think just with my efforts, like you said, with the promoting the mulatta aesthetic and the mulatto men, like just promoting us, seeing us together as a group. I think that's a good way to encourage people. Um, yeah,
Exactly. And which sad the thing that saddens me a lot is, and unfortunately, I've seen a lot of mixed people and biracials, because mixed and biracial is not the same. I say that all biracials are mixed race, but not all mixed people are biracial.
yeah,
So
for
it's
sure. Yeah.
so a lot of them, they like to assert and praise their black heritage, but it's not a black heritage that they when they think about being black, they think about being miserable. They think about the misery of the history, the sadness of the history, and they don't think about the beauty of also of Black American culture, the depth of it, the spirituality, different things. And that's the issue, because this also allows so many other people, non-Black and non-mixed people, who feel miserable, to claim Black, because Black means being miserable. And I've seen that a lot.
And you see it on the internet and videos. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's like a struggle kind of oppression hierarchy,
True.
basically, where like because the whole identity is a surrounded around being a former slave and how dark your skin is and how much discrimination you face. That's really and if you're poor, that's another element, is your economic status. So there's so many things intertwined in that. It's almost like in America, being black, it's like a class status, a social status. It's not really like a heritage culture, right? Because in like I say, when the Nigerians come over here, they say, well, they're Nigerian. The cuisine, the food they eat, their cultural traditions, it's Nigerian. There's like an identity culture. It's not based on this class thing about being at the bottom. Where in America, a lot of the former descendants of slaves, they embrace this kind of bottom dweller existence where they embrace being from the hood. They embrace being victims. I can't identify with that, because a lot of those same the thing with me is, in my 20s, a lot of those same people that I sympathize with, right? And I wanted to advocate for and defended their honor when I was in front of like white circles, a lot of those people would spit in my face and say basically that I'm privileged, you're half white, I don't trust you and stuff. And I'm like, well, why am I helping your ass if you're gonna you don't want my help? Okay, well, there's other people who do. So
And that's crazy because, for example, France, I consider myself Belgian.
mhm,
I have the French nationality, but we come from Belgium.
right.
And the French institutions, okay, racism in France is about the institutions. Of course, you can have racist white French people, but
Mhm.
let's say if a Louisiana Creole wants to go back to France and enjoy his French heritage and culture, the white French people will actually be nice to him and encourage them in doing so. They will even recognize them, though being mixed race, of being French. So you have, for example, in French media, uh, white people with a Black Caribbean ancestry. There's this singer, his name is Julien Clerc, and he describes himself as an octoroon, like his great grandfather was a Black man from Guadeloupe. And he actually grew up in the French West Indian culture, and he's really attached to it, and he's seen by the white French as a white man. But this doesn't take away the fact that he can also represent the little Black Caribbean blood that he has, and no other white French people consider him to be other because he has that little drop of Black blood. So the institutions over here they are colonial, but at the same time, when it comes to your race and the way you identify as, they let you free. They make a clear distinction between a Black person and a mixed person, for example, here in France.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is because the French and the Spaniards and the Portuguese, they are Latin people, and their propaganda of domination was race mixing. But it's the Northern Europeans, the Germans, the Dutch, people from the UK. They don't like race mixing. They were into apartheid and separation, and you know. So I think that it's also interesting to analyze the our respective heritage regarding the oppressors that we had. and try to destroy the thing that needs to be destroyed and try to understand the things that need to be understood. So the US society is really toxic, I believe.
Yeah, you can
And
see, yeah, you can see in the media and stuff like that. A
mm,
lot of benefits here. I really like it here. Beautiful country. But what you said is very accurate as far as the more kind of English or Anglo whites and how they deal with the African population versus the French, Spanish, Portuguese, where they have more of an assimilation policy. And that's around the world, around the planet. And even here in America, I can say where we have the state of Louisiana, which at one time was one of the largest, demographics of mulatto mixed race people. They call them the term Creole and stuff like that. So there's a long history of even free, they say people of color, which they're implying like mulatto, mixed race, or MGM people from Louisiana, which was a French and Spanish
mhm.
colonial territory at one time. And so with that, the policies were a little different versus the more Anglo English, policies in like Virginia or other states in the Union. And so yeah, I agree with your observation there. How it with a lot of the English people, Anglo people, it's kind of separate. We get the white here, black over here, but more so with like French and Spanish, they're like, well, let's kind of mix in a little bit, and so the way they navigate is a little different. My lineage is on my mother's side is French Canadian and German. So my
Okay.
grandfather is German from Germany, and my grandmother is American, but she's French Canadian. And then her mother and her parents are from Canada, and
And uh,
my father is side is American descendants of American slavery.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to send you my website so you can read my articles and see the things that I'm doing.
Okay, for sure.
Mhm.
So like you've stated, America is pretty toxic. Yeah, and it's an immigrant nation, so they've always brought in people from outside the country to supply the population here. Have you ever been to America and like what's your general? Yeah.
No, I've been to Canada
Okay.
only, and I was on the French speaking side. So I thought it was really interesting, but I wish that I would go to the US, especially in the South, Louisiana. I would like to go to Louisiana to visit and to understand the history, which is really tied to France, and
Yeah.
mm,
It's named after a French king,
true.
King Louis. Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
so it's and also to me because Louisiana is like the point of the Caribbean. It's just the beginning somehow of the point of entry into the Caribbean that we have, and I would like to see that. I like their food and discover their music. They call it Zideco. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well or whatever, but I would like to understand more, and also to speak with more African Americans,
Hmm.
whether they can be black or mixed race. I don't care,
Yeah.
but have their experience and share with them.
Yeah, they have a lot of black people in the state, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. So it's a lot of black people in that state compared if you go to like Utah or something or Oregon, there's like no black people there. So the southeast of America is where majority black people are. Or if you go to the major city like Los Angeles, New York, or Detroit, Chicago, something like that, or St. Louis. But the thing is with mixed race people, a lot of us, like I said, we've kind of been absorbed into the black population in America. And not only that, it's just the identity. A lot of mixed race people, their white heritage, they have been disconnected from their European
Mm.
roots. So they only identify as black. They only see the world as black. I've been to an all black nation. I've been to Ghana. Beautiful people. I know my lineage is from West Africa, from the slave trade, right? And it's like those people are proud of their culture, their identity, but I will be called a white man when I'm there. They gatekeep their culture. They have an identity, which is a beautiful thing. Or versus here in America, I don't see that. I see a lot of the people who don't like their identity, who they are. So they want to claim other people's identities, and then they want to shame you for embracing who you are fully. Because
True.
yeah, even me and you, we look different, right? You said you're MGM. I believe is some you're Belgium, so your lineage is it from Congo or
Yes, my parents, both of them, they're Belgian Congolese culturally, but
okay.
they have different backgrounds.
Hmm.
Because the Congo was a place of a crossword.
Yeah,
I don't
like
say un
commerce.
carrefour. Yes, so many people came, and
Mhm.
so through my father, I have Caribbean, I have West African and Congo. My mom, I have Congo, Swahili Coast, Middle East, and Sicily. So
Yeah,
and that's why. And I write a lot about that. I write a lot about the mixed race community from the Congo and what the Belgians did to them. I'm gonna send you links about that. It's terrible. Just like they treated the Black Congolese, the way they treated us, very difficult. And I write a lot about the trauma of this experience.
so comparing like Belgium and to France, I've never been to Belgium. I have an English student from Brazil who just traveled to Belgium. He told me there's a lot of black people that live in Belgium. Which one do you think's a better fit for you, Belgium or France?
Me, Belgium for me.
Okay.
I
Okay.
feel more Belgian than France.
I'm just
French.
curious. Yeah.
Yes.
I want to go to
Culturally
both
more Belgian. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I just had to ask. I think we're almost done here, but we'll keep in touch for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank,
you very much.
thank you. All right, bye.